Imagine a world engulfed in flames, not just cities burning, but entire societies torn apart by hatred and ambition. World War II was more than battles, it was a global upheaval that reshaped continents and humanity itself. From the frozen Russian steppes to the Pacific jungles, millions were swept into the conflict. Soldiers, families, entire nations. The war's scale was unprecedented, its impact still echoing in our politics and fears today. This isn't a simple story of good versus evil, but a web of choices and consequences. Ordinary people became heroes, women kept the home front alive, and every sacrifice mattered. The war revealed both the best and worst of humanity, solidarity and heroism, cruelty and evil. It pushed us to our limits, showing our capacity for destruction and resilience. History isn't distant, it's the memory of real people and real choices. The lessons from their suffering and triumphs remain vital, a guide to ensure such catastrophe never happens again. Let's journey into the heart of World War II. World War II's roots lay in the bitter aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, meant to secure peace, left Germany humiliated and economically crippled. This resentment fueled extremist ideologies, paving the way for Adolf Hitler's rise. Hitler promised to restore Germany's pride and power, blaming others for the nation's woes. He defied the treaty, rearming Germany and reclaiming lost territories, while Britain and France, haunted by past horrors, pursued appeasement. Each concession only emboldened Hitler. Austria was annexed, Czechoslovakia dismantled. The world watched, hoping to avoid war, but decisive action came too late. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, Britain and France declared war 2 days later. Appeasement had failed. The seeds of bitterness sown at Versailles had finally erupted into a new, even more devastating global conflict. The world was at war once again, and this time the stakes were higher than ever. After Poland fell, Hitler's Blitzkrieg swept through Western Europe. Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium and France all fell rapidly. The British and French retreated to Dunkirk, where a miraculous evacuation saved over 300,000 Allied soldiers. With France lost, Britain stood alone. Hitler's plan to invade hinged on defeating the Royal Air Force in the Battle of Britain. Outnumbered RAF pilots, aided by radar, fought valiantly, inspiring Churchill's famous words, "Never was so much owed by so many to so few." When air superiority failed, Hitler unleashed the Blitz, months of relentless bombing on British cities. Londoners took shelter underground, cities burned, but the British spirit held firm. Communities united, life continued amid the rubble, and morale never broke. The Blitz forged unity and defiance, the bulldog spirit. Hitler postponed his invasion, Britain remained unconquered. This resilience would prove vital for the liberation of Europe. The world saw that tyranny could be resisted. The fight was far from over. In June 1941, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, breaking his pact with Stalin. The initial German advance was swift and brutal, but the vastness of Russia and the early savage winter halted them near Moscow. Ill-prepared for the cold, German troops suffered as supply lines collapsed and frostbite set in. The war became a grinding, frozen nightmare. The turning point came at Stalingrad, where brutal street fighting raged. Soviet forces under General Zhukov encircled and trapped the German Sixth Army. Starved and freezing, the Germans surrendered in February 1943. Stalingrad was a catastrophic defeat for Hitler and a psychological blow to the Nazis. From then on, the Red Army pushed relentlessly westward. The Eastern Front became a graveyard for Hitler's ambitions. Millions perished, but the tide of war had turned. The frozen hell of the East would ultimately lead to Berlin's fall. The cost was unimaginable, but hope was rekindled. As the Soviets advanced from the east, the Western Allies prepared to strike from the west. Operation Overlord D-Day was set for June 6, 1944, the largest seaborne invasion in history. Allied forces stormed Normandy's beaches after a night of airborne landings. At Omaha Beach, American troops faced fierce resistance and heavy losses, but small groups pressed forward. By day's end, the Allies had secured a foothold on all 5 beaches. The cost was high, but the door to Germany was open. The battle for Normandy raged for weeks with brutal close-quarters fighting in the hedgerows. Allied air power and resources eventually broke German resistance. Paris was liberated in August 1944. D-Day marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany in the West. The Allies pressed on, determined to finish the fight. The liberation of Europe had begun. The world watched as hope returned. Beyond the battlefields, a darker war raged, one of systematic persecution and genocide. The Holocaust saw 6 million Jews and millions of others murdered by the Nazis. This was not collateral damage, but a central goal of Nazi ideology. Victims were rounded up, sent to camps, and killed or forced into brutal labor. The cruelty was chillingly efficient, erasing entire communities. Stories like Anne Frank's remind us these were real people, not just numbers. In the Pacific, Japanese forces committed atrocities against prisoners and civilians. The Bataan Death March, the rape of Nanking. These horrors reveal humanity's capacity for cruelty and the urgent need to fight intolerance. Remembering these tragedies is a moral responsibility we must never forget. By spring 1945, Nazi Germany was collapsing. Berlin in ruins, Hitler dead, and Germany surrendered on May 8th. Celebrations erupted, but the war in the Pacific raged on. The island-hopping campaign was brutal. Japan refused to surrender. Facing the prospect of massive casualties, President Truman authorized the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. The devastation was unprecedented. Japan surrendered soon after, ending World War II. The world was left in ruins, cities destroyed, millions dead or displaced. Out of the ashes, nations vowed to build a better future. The United Nations was founded to promote peace, security, and human rights. Remembering World War II is a moral duty. We honor the sacrifices and learn from the horrors. The war taught us the cost of appeasement, the value of cooperation, and the resilience of the human spirit. By keeping these memories alive, we safeguard the future. The promise never again.